Hello and welcome to our channel. As promised, we have launched our free initiative to crack UPSC. Okay, so this is a crash course for prelims. Okay, so the first we will start with the polity. Okay, so in today's class we will be going with the constitution, types, differences, and we will cover all the aspects of the M. Laxmikant. And as you know, M. Laxmikant is not fully sufficient to clear the prelims. Okay, so I am covering all the additional things which are not covered in the M. Laxmikant. So without wasting time, let's start with our discussion. Okay, so the first idea for the separate constitution of India was put by the M.N. Roy in 1934. And in 1935, Indian National Congress also demanded for the constituent of free India. Okay, not free India, that is a separate constitution for India. Like we were at that point of time going for the dominion status. We were demanding dominion status first, then we will go for the complete independence. So majority of these things are like related to the modern history. Okay, but we are covering that things in the brief here only. Okay, and in 1938 Jawaharlal Nehru declared that the constitution of free India must be framed without outside interference. With outside interference we mean the British. Like the free constitution of free India will not be uh, made by anyone's influence, neither the British nor anyone else. Okay, and the Constituent Assembly was to be elected on the based on adult franchise. You know adult franchise, all the adults have the right to vote. Okay, in August of 1940, for the first time, the demand for the Constituent Assembly was accepted by the British. In 1940, for the first time, the demand for the separate constitution of India was accepted by the British government. Okay, then comes we will do this later. Uh, in 1942, what happened? So Stafford Cripps came to India. You know, Cripps mission came to India with a draft proposal to frame a independent constitution of India, and this was rejected by the Muslim League because they were demanding for the separate country for them. In 1946, cabinet mission was sent to India, which rejected the idea of two constituent assemblies. Like they wanted two constituent assembly for India and another one for the Pakistan, but they told no, we will have a single constituent assembly. Hence, elections were held as per the cabinet mission plan of 1946. There was election held in which or both parties, Congress, Muslim League, and the princely state, they all took part. Okay. In July 1947, elections to the Constituent Assembly were held for the 296 seats allotted. At that time, 296 seats were allotted to the British Indian provinces. In these elections, Indian National Congress won 208 seats. Okay, and Muslim League won 73 seats, and the Independent, like the which were not from both of these parties, won 15 seats. At that time, the princely state decided to stay away from the Constituent Assembly, and their 93 seats remained unfilled. Then come on 9 December 1946, the Constituent Assembly held its first meeting. The first meeting was held, and it was attended by only 211 members, as Muslim League was not interested in this and they boycotted the meeting. And this one is one, like in previous year it was asked in the prelims, like before Rajendra Prasad, who was the president uh, of Constituent Assembly? So the answer is Dr. Sachinandan Sinha. He was made the temporary president because he was the senior most member of the assembly at that time. And on 11th December 1946, the Constituent Assembly elected by the voting. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as the president of the assembly. And apart from the president, there were two vice presidents also. Who were they? H.C. Mukherjee and V.T. Krishnamachari. And also B.N. Rao was appointed as the constitutional advisor to the Constituent Assembly. He was the advisor to the assembly. Okay. And H.V.R. Iyengar and as the secretary of the Constituent Assembly. Then comes the objective resolution. Objective resolution is like an agenda. What will be there in the constitution? We are going to frame constitution, but what will be constitution? What will be the agenda of the constitution? What we will include in the constitution and what we will not include in the constitution? That was the question at that time. So the objective resolution was passed on 13th December 1946. Constituent Assembly established its objective committee led by Jawaharlal Nehru. Pandit Nehru submitted the objective resolution in the assembly. Okay, he submitted the objective resolution, which laid down the philosophy. As I told you, philosophy. What will be the philosophy of the constitution? What will be the fundamentals of our constitution? On 22nd January 1947, the assembly unanimously adopted the objective resolution. On 22nd January of 1947, the assembly adopted this objective resolution. Okay. So after the Mountbatten plan, the division of the partition of the country, on 3rd June, princely state who were not in the Constituent Assembly, they who were they were away. They stayed away from the election last time. They joined it. Okay, and their representative took the seats in the Constituent Assembly. They have their representatives who represented them. And the changes which came from the 1947, the Act of Independence in the assembly was the total strength became 389. Out of 389, earlier the total strength was 389. Out of which the new strength was 299 members, in which 229 members were from the British Indian states, representative of the British India. Majority of the country was under the British control, and there were some princely state too, and the rest of the 70 members were from the princely state. Okay, 70 members were from the princely state. The act made the assembly full sovereign. They mean full sovereign means there will be no interference from the British in this framing of this constitution. The assembly also act as legislative body, it was also acting as legislature. At that time, some of the laws were required. Okay, some laws were required to govern the country. So it also worked as legislative council, and it had two separate functions. First one was to make the constitution, write the constitution of free India, and other was to enact ordinary laws, some of the laws which were required at that point of time in the country due to the situation of the country at that time. So the drafting committee, it was the main committee among the 8 major committees. Okay, why? The main work of drafting committee was to draft constitution. The main work was to draft the constitution. So the Constituent Assembly had 8 major committees. Among all these committees, drafting committee was main, because it was the work assigned to it was to write the Constitution of India. Okay, on 29th August 1947, the assembly set up drafting committee to prepare a draft for the constitution, and the chairman was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He was appointed as the chairman of the drafting committee, and along with him there were six other members. Who were they? N. Gopal Swami Iyengar, Aladi Krishna Swami Iyer, Dr. K. M. Munshi, Sayyid Muhammad Sadullah, and Madhav and T.T. Krishnamachari. Basically, these things are like the members' name. These are now more relevant to the PCS exams, state PCS. There is very less chances to these questions to be asked in the prelims, but we will prepare for it also. So we will be fully prepared. Okay. And on the 26th November of 1949, the motion on the draft constitution was declared as passed. Like on 26th November, the constitution was fully made and now it was going to be signed. Okay. And the signature was started with Dr. Rajendra Prasad. He signed first, and secondly was the Jawaharlal Nehru. And then other 282 members were uh, other 282 members signed it. Like on out of 299 members, some of them were absent. Okay, so only 284 members were present on that day, and 284 members signed. And first one to sign was Rajendra Prasad, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and second one was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, so this is the like whole constitution, like how constitution was made, who were the members. Okay, and what happened, some of the provision was adopted on 26th of November itself. Some of the provision of the constitution was adopted on 26th November. The rest was adopted on 26th of January 1950, which we celebrate as Republic Day. Okay, because on that day we say India became fully republic. Apart from this, there was some of the criticism of the Constituent Assembly. Why? As you know, everything has a pro and cons. So we have to study what people at that time thought of this Constituent Assembly. So first they said that it is not a representative body because commons have not voted for them and the members were not elected directly by the people of India. Okay, the members, like some of the princely state, they had their representative to go and attend this Constituent Assembly. So it is not a representative body. Nobody voted like directly by the people of India. It was not voted. Second, it was not a sovereign body, according to some people. Why? The CA was created by the proposal of British government. Like British government said that Constitution of Free India will be drafted and we will create the Constituent Assembly. So some people say that it was not a sovereign body, uh, because its sessions were held with the permission of the British government. All the sessions, like before independence, were held by the British government's permission. And one of the important is time consuming. Why? It took many days to like many months to draft the Constitution of India. On the other hand, the US Constitution was framed in just 4 months. For that, Naziruddin Ahmed coined a term, what? Drifting committee, instead of the drafting committee. Okay, he told that these people are drifting these things. Okay, not going directly, but they are drifting. That's why he coined a term drifting committee or the drafting committee. Okay, and one of the criticism is it was dominated by Congress. The Granville Austin, he said that the Constituent Assembly was one party body in an essentially one party country. As Muslim League has gone now, who was drafting the who were the members of the Constituent Assembly? Majority from the Congress. So he said that the assembly was Congress and Congress was India. He told that at that point of time in India only one party was there, and essentially this was the India and Congress was India. Assembly was Congress and Congress was India. Then other criticism is it was dominated by lawyer and politician. Majority of the member like B.R. Ambedkar, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, they were what? They were lawyer and politician. There was no common man in the there was no common man in the Constituent Assembly. So he told that this is why the wordings of the Constitution is so much so much complicated that it was not understandable by the common man. Why? Because it was written by the lawyer and politician, and they used the legal terms. And as you know, at that point of time, the literacy rate of India was very low. So this was like a common man would not understand the constitution at that point of time. And another one was like it was dominated by Hindu. You know, Muslim League, they wanted Pakistan, and our country was divided. So many of the Muslim leaders joined the Pakistan. Muslim League person went to the Pakistan, and what happened? The majority of the person who were in the Constituent Assembly were Hindus. That's why Winston Churchill commented that CA represented only one major community in the India. Okay. So other some important facts. These are basically more important for the PCS, but we will study these two also. Elephant was adopted as seal, seal stamp type. It was adopted the seal of the Constituent Assembly. Serbian Raw was appointed as the constitutional advisor to the CA. HVR Iyengar was secretary to the CA. SN Mukherjee was chief draftsman of the constitution in CA. Now here comes some important point like Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada was the calligrapher of the Indian Constitution. The original Constitution was handwritten by him in italic style. Okay, in English version, italics. It was written by and calligraphy is type of writing. So Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada calligraphed the first like the Constitution of India, English version, and the original version was beautified and decorated by artist of Shantiniketan. You have read about Shantiniketan. Now comment who was the founder of Shantiniketan. Okay. So what the Shantiniketan, who were the person who beautified them? Were Nandlal Bose, Biohar Ram Manohar Sinha. These were the person who beautified and decorated the original constitution. And Biohar Ram Manohar Sinha also eliminated and beautified the preamble. After the making of constitution, we adopted preamble also, which was somehow we say the objective resolution of Pandit Nehru. So what was this? preamble was basically the objective resolution of Pandit Nehru, and it was calligraphed by Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada. And also, at that point of time, constitution was written in English and Hindi. The Hindi version of original constitution was done by Vasant Krishna Vaid and decorated by Nandlal Bose. So here comes the adoption of constitution. You know, our constitution was completed on 26 November 1949, and previously I told you that it was signed on that day only. So four provisions came into force at that point of time. What were they? Citizenship. There was a lot of migration going on. So the provision of citizenship was enforced at that time. Elections, as India was a new country, the first major, in democracy, the first step is election. So it was also adopted on 26th November 1949, provisional parliament, and some transitional provisions. Okay. Now we will study what is basically, we have learned everything about Constituent Assembly. Now, what is a constitution? You know, there, like every law in the country is not mentioned in the constitution. For example, during COVID-19, what the government of India told? That it is compulsory to wear a mask. Okay, and this thing is not mentioned in the constitution. So what is constitution? So we can say constitution is set of higher laws which says about the nature of state. Like our state is secular, although the term was added by 42nd amendment in the preamble, but before that, if when we will study about fundamental right, we will know that the secular term not explicitly, sorry, the term was not mentioned in the constitution, but there was secular state. When we will study the fundamental right, we will uh, know about it. Okay, and what are the basic principles of the state? What are the principles of the state? How is division of power between center and state? Like there are three lists: uh, state, central list, state list, and concurrent list. So how is the division of power? And it is the most important document on which other laws, as I told you, like this law was based on what? Constitution. It is the supreme law of a nation. It is a supreme law. Like no law is more superior than the constitution. It is set of laws on which all laws passed should be based, and no ordinary law can violate the basic structure of the constitution. We will study about the basic structure. Like we can amend the constitution, but we can't change the basic structure of the constitution. So, like this, wearing a mask, this law was not mentioned in the constitution, but government passed. Like it is mentioned in the constitution that government should take necessary step to for the welfare of the people. So on that law, wearing mask was enforced. Okay, so we can say constitution is the supreme law of land, which by in the sense ordinary by ordinary law we can't uh, violate the constitution, and no one can violate the constitution. And then here comes the different types of constitution. In different types of world, in different type of nation, there are different type of constitution. So On the basis of writing, we can divide constitution in two parts. One is written constitution and other is unwritten constitution. So what happens in written constitution? In this, the constitution is well written and codified. For example, if you will go in market or a library and a bigger library, you can find Constitution of India, a book. Okay, and if you will, you want Constitution of, if a library is big enough, then you can also find Constitution of US. Okay, it will be like a page. Okay, so we can find Constitution of India and US. But if we will go and want to find the Constitution of UK, we will not find. Why? Because UK don't have written constitution. This doesn't mean that the laws are not written. They are written, but they are not codified. Codified in the sense, for example, we have Article 1, which states India, that is Bharat, is union of states. So we have Article 1 mentioned in the constitution, and it is our constitution divided in various parts, part 1 and so on. So these are well codified. So in written constitution, the constitution is written as well as codified. It's have codes, parts. It is divided in parts and articles. This is in the sense we can say it is codified. Now the examples are of written India and USA, and unwritten is UK and Israel. What is the benefit of unwritten constitution? It is more flexible. Like we can amend anytime. If we want to amend the constitution, we can amend anytime, and that's why uh, a philosopher D. Lolme told that British constitution is so supreme that it can do anything. It can do anything. Whatever it want, it can do, but not convert a man into a woman and woman into man. Okay. So mean we can say the benefit is it is more flexible. Now second one is enacted versus evolved. You know, like group of people, like the Constituent Assembly in case of India, we enacted the our constitution on 26th November. We gave ourselves a constitution. But in case of some countries like British, the laws are evolved. Like the necessity of time makes the laws to evolve. For example, at in 1950s, there were some laws which were required at that point of time. So British, what they did, they incorporated that laws only. Okay, and if there was not required other laws, they simply don't incorporated it. And after some time, if they wanted, these laws are no more longer used, they can simply remove this and new laws can be written in that. Okay, so this is the enacted versus evolved, and the most important is the unitary versus federal. What happens in unitary? As the word itself says, unit. What is this? Unit. So all the powers are within the center, one powerful center. For example, in Britain, the center is more powerful, most powerful, I can say. It it can delegate its power to the states, but there is no distribution of power. So delegation means I am giving you these powers, okay? But if my mind changes, I will snatch this power back. I'm not giving you permanently these powers. And in case of unitary system, the powers are like distributed. If some powers are of union, then some powers are of states, and you can't snatch the power of the state. So, what are the examples of the unitary system? South Africa and United Kingdom. And federal, we say USA, Australia. Okay, USA and Australia are the some example of the federal constitution. Now, I have told you the definition of unitary, like there is no separation of powers between center and state and this. But there is no proper definition of what federation. Okay, we don't have the proper definition of federal government. So how we know that a constitution is federal or unitary? So there are 5 steps. Okay, we compare it with the constitution of US. It is the oldest federation. It is the oldest federation of the world. So what we see, the first step is, does the country is having dual government, like a government at center and a government at state. Second point is distribution of power. Is the powers divided between center and state? Like there are some powers which are with center and which are with state. For example, defense is with center, and police is with state. Public law and order is with state. Then third one is written constitution. Like the constitution is written or unwritten. Why? Because written constitution is more rigid. And then independent judiciary means judiciary is not in influence of anyone. Okay, it can independently give its like its verdicts and everything. And in amendment, both state and center should take part. Okay, so now according to this definition, we will see the case of India. Do we have dual government? Yes, a government at center and government at state. The central government is headed by, like in current time, PM Modi, and the central state various state governments like Yogi Adityanath. So first criteria is fulfilled. Second, distribution of power. Yes, center have its own powers and state have its own powers. This criteria is also fulfilled. Written constitution, we have written constitution as well. Independent judiciary, yes, the judiciary of India is independent. Okay, and fifth one is in amendment, both state and center should take part. Yes, like for example, there is a GST. In implementation of GST, what both center passed this law, and it was ratified with more than half of the states. Okay, we have seen and we can say that Indian constitution is federal. But now, according to some experts, we will see another scenario also of India. Do we have dual government? Yes, in normal cases. But what in case of president's rule? In president rule, what we can take the central state is controlled by center. Then distribution of power. In president's rule, the state powers is snatched, and who rules the state? Center. Written constitution, yes, we have written constitution, but during the writing of constitution, state took part, like state of Uttar Pradesh took part in the writing of constitution. No. And apart from this, in USA, every state of USA have the written constitution, its own constitution, but we don't have separate constitution for the states. Okay, there is one constitution which is constitution of India, which governs both center and state. Then independent judiciary. In when we will study judiciary, or we will study the rule of powers of president, we will come across the term like who appoints the judges of Supreme Court and High Court. It is the president, on the advice of Council of Ministers. So we can say that we have independent judiciary, because at last, according to some experts, we say that the judges are appointed by president. So there is an influence of legislature over the judiciary. Okay. And the fifth one, okay, in case, you know recently, uh, we can say, in case of citizenship, you know citizenship amendment, do we ask the state to kindly give your uh, voting? Okay, the state took part in the amendment? No. So what we can see that in normal situation, all these five criteria are fulfilled. So we say that India is a fertile country. But in abnormal condition like war, external emergency, or president's rule, we say that the our polity becomes unitary. So there is, see, we say that some of the people say that India is mix of unitary government with some federal mix. Okay, and the term used is quasi-federal for India. Like in normal situation, our country is federal, but in case of abnormal condition, we are a unitary constitution. Okay, normal constitution we are federal, but in abnormal condition we are unitary constitution. So these points are important for your mains exam. Okay, so let's wind up here only, and from in next class we will study further. Okay, so hope you enjoyed the class. So kindly like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share if you are getting any benefit from it to your friends also. Okay, so he will also get the benefit of this. So hope this class was very good for you. Now let's meet in our the next class. For that time, thanks you and have a nice day, and study hard and focus on your studies. Thank you.